Now, a new analysis shows that the 6-ton iconic altar stone at the heart of Stonehenge.
It's one of the largest stones here at around 6 tons. The big question is how on earth it was transported from northeast Scotland.
The program ran for 72 straight hours, processing petabytes of data from the Salisbury Plain. On the third day, it flagged an anomaly, not in the position of the stones, but in their very fabric, a repeating pattern hidden in the magnetic resonance of the rock. This is what scientists had been waiting for. For millennia, Stonehenge has stood as a silent monument to a lost world. But now, thanks to a powerful new artificial intelligence, its stones are finally speaking, and the first words they've uttered are a terrifying prophecy that changes everything we know about our past and our future. The Whispering Rocks. The story you're about to hear doesn't start in a dusty trench on the Salisbury Plain. It starts in a climate-controlled server room, humming with the quiet power of a machine that thinks in ways we can't. You see, for decades, we've studied Stonehenge with human tools and human limitations. We've mapped its stones, analyzed their composition, and tracked their alignment with the sun and moon. We've learned some incredible things. For example, the massive sarsen stones, some weighing over 40 tons. That's heavier than 6 full-grown elephants, were dragged over 20 miles from Marlborough Downs. The smaller bluestones, weighing a mere 4 tons each, were transported an astonishing 150 miles from the Preseli Hills in Wales. This took place over 1,500 years, starting around 5,000 years ago. An incredible feat of human engineering. But not all things are what they seem. What many overlooked is that the builders were doing more than just placing stones. They were engineering a message board to last the ages. The breakthrough came from a privately funded initiative known as Project Kronos. Its goal was simple yet insanely ambitious: to create a complete one-to-one digital twin of Stonehenge, capturing not just its physical dimensions, but every single scrap of data ever recorded about it. LiDAR scans that mapped every crack and fissure, ground-penetrating radar that revealed forgotten post holes and pits, magnetometry readings that showed the magnetic history locked inside the stones, acoustic tests that measured how sound, from a whisper to a drumbeat, reverberates through the circle. It was, to put it mildly, the most comprehensive dataset ever assembled on an ancient monument. Then, they unleashed the AI. This wasn't some off-the-shelf algorithm. It was a deep learning neural network designed to find patterns that the human brain, with all its biases and limitations, would miss. The researchers didn't tell it what to look for. They simply fed it trillions of data points and asked one question: what are we not seeing? For weeks, there was nothing but silence. The AI correlated the monument's known alignments, the famous summer and winter solstice sunrises, and confirmed what we already knew. It was a bust. But then it started cross-referencing datasets in a way no human had ever thought to. It layered the magnetic signatures of the stones over their acoustic properties. It compared the microscopic erosion patterns caused by thousands of years of wind and rain with the precise astronomical alignments. That's when the first anomaly appeared. The AI found a set of impossibly faint, non-random patterns. It was a multi-layered code. The first layer was in the stone itself. The magnetic particles within the sarsens weren't random. They showed evidence of having been exposed to intense localized heat before they were erected, creating a kind of binary code of magnetic polarities. This code was invisible to the naked eye and undetectable with standard magnetometers. The thing nobody tells you is that this kind of thermal imprinting requires technology that theoretically didn't exist 5,000 years ago. It's like finding a QR code embedded in a fossil. The second layer of the code was even more mind-bending. The AI analyzed the way sound waves bounced off the stones. It found that certain frequencies, far below the range of human hearing, resonated between specific stones in a complex sequence. When this infrasound sequence was mapped, it formed a data pattern. The third layer was mathematical. The AI ignored the obvious solar and lunar alignments and instead looked at the monument's relationship to more distant celestial objects, not just stars, but pulsars and distant galaxies. It found dozens of precise alignments that would only occur on a cyclical basis, once every several thousand years. When Project Kronos combined these three layers, the magnetic, the acoustic, and the astronomical, they got their message. It wasn't written in any human language. It was pure mathematics and physics, a universal language, and the initial translation was just 3 words: "It comes back." A chill went through the research lab. A 5,000-year-old monument wasn't just a calendar to track seasons, it was a clock counting down to something. The question was, what? The team knew they were onto something huge, something that would rewrite history, but they were also terrified. They had opened a time capsule from a long-lost civilization, and its first message was a warning. The ancient people of Britain didn't haul 40-ton stones across the country just to mark a harvest festival. They were building an alarm bell, a warning system designed to last longer than any empire, to survive any cataclysm, and to be read only by a civilization advanced enough to understand it. They built it for us. Now the race was on to decipher the rest of the message. The AI was working, but the patterns were incredibly complex. It was like trying to assemble a 3-dimensional puzzle with a million pieces, with no picture on the box to guide you. Every new piece of decoded information only led to more questions and a deeper sense of unease. What was coming back? And why were our ancestors so desperate to warn us about it? The team at Project Kronos were beginning to realize that the greatest mystery of Stonehenge wasn't how it was built, but why. The answer, they would soon discover, was far worse than they could ever imagine. The builders weren't just astronomers, they were survivors of a forgotten apocalypse, knowledge from a lost world. So, what kind of civilization possesses the knowledge to encode magnetic data into 40-ton megaliths? Mainstream archaeology tells us these were Neolithic farmers, people with simple tools and a rudimentary understanding of the cosmos. But the data from Project Kronos painted a very different picture. To put it mildly, the message wasn't just a warning, it was a legacy, a library of knowledge left behind by a culture that was anything but primitive. Many people are crazy about theories of ancient high technology, often dismissed as fantasy. But what the AI was piecing together suggested something far more grounded and, frankly, more terrifying. The AI began to cross-reference the Stonehenge code with other ancient sites around the world. It analyzed the layout of the Giza Plateau, the mysterious acoustics of Newgrange in Ireland, and the astronomical precision of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, a site that's a staggering 11,000 years old. The AI found echoes of the same mathematical principles everywhere. It was a shared language of sacred geometry and celestial alignment that connected these disparate cultures across thousands of years and thousands of miles. The thing nobody tells you is that these monuments might not be independent creations. They might be parts of a single, global project, a network of stone archives. Stonehenge, the AI concluded, was the network's master hard drive. Its unique combination of magnetic rock and precise location on Earth's energy grid made it the perfect place to store a vast amount of information. The message wasn't just, "It comes back." That was just the title of the book. As the AI delved deeper, it began translating entire chapters. There were no stories of kings or empires. Instead, there were complex astronomical charts, diagrams of planetary physics, and long, intricate strings of chemical equations. It was a science textbook written in stone. One of the most shocking revelations was a detailed star map, but it wasn't a map of the sky as we see it today. The constellations were subtly different. The positions of known stars slightly shifted. Working with astrophysicists, the Kronos team realized what they were looking at. It was a map of the heavens from approximately 12,800 years ago. This date is a massive red flag for any geologist or archaeologist. It corresponds exactly with the Younger Dryas, a period of abrupt, catastrophic climate change that plunged the world back into an ice age for over 1,000 years. For years, scientists have debated the cause of the Younger Dryas. The leading theory is the impact hypothesis, the idea that one or more comets struck the North American ice sheet, triggering global fires, atmospheric soot that blocked the sun, and a sudden, devastating deep freeze. This event would have wiped out entire species, including the woolly mammoth, and brought human civilization to the brink of collapse. The message in the stones seemed to confirm this. It contained detailed descriptions of an object approaching from the outer solar system. It described the sky turning black, the ground shaking, and great floods that reshaped the continents. It wasn't a myth. It was an eyewitness account. The builders of Stonehenge, the AI implied, were the descendants of the survivors of this cataclysm. They weren't primitive farmers just starting out. They were the inheritors of a shattered, high-tech civilization, desperately trying to preserve its most critical knowledge for the future. They had lost their cities, their machines, and their infrastructure. All they had left was their knowledge and a profound understanding of natural materials, of stone, sound, and magnetism. They used what they had to build a monument that couldn't be burned, flooded, or eroded away. They built a library that could survive the end of the world. This completely reframes the mystery of how Stonehenge was built. The question is no longer, how did primitive people move 40-ton stones? But how did the survivors of a lost golden age, stripped of their technology, manage to rebuild and leave this warning? Maybe they didn't use brute force. The decoded files hinted at a mastery of acoustics and vibration. Some fringe theories have long suggested that sound could be used to levitate heavy objects. The AA found mathematical formulas embedded in the acoustic code of Stonehenge that were, in essence, blueprints for sonic resonance. Could they have used harmonic frequencies to make the stones weightless, guiding them into place with minimal effort? It sounds like science fiction, but the evidence was right there, humming in the digital twin of Stonehenge. This lost civilization understood physics in a way we are only just beginning to grasp. They knew the Earth wasn't just a dead rock. It was a living system of electromagnetic energy. They built Stonehenge on a nexus point of this energy, a place where the planet's magnetic field was uniquely amplified, allowing their magnetic message to remain stable for millennia. They weren't just builders, they were planetary engineers. The team at Project Kronos was now faced with an incredible and humbling truth. History wasn't a straight line of progress from cavemen to astronauts. It was a cycle. A highly advanced human civilization had existed on Earth thousands of years before Sumeria, and it had been almost completely erased from existence. Almost. They left behind a warning, a desperate message to their descendants, us, so that we would not share their fate. The message was simple. They had been wiped out by a cosmic impact, a recurring event in our solar system. And the clock they built was ticking down to the next one. The AI was about to reveal the date. And it was terrifyingly close. The prophecy in the stars. The atmosphere at Project Kronos had shifted from academic curiosity to a grim sense of urgency. The AI had established the what, a cyclical cosmic event. It had established the who, the descendants of a lost, technologically advanced civilization. Now, all that was left was the when. And the answer was locked in the most complex part of the message, the astronomical code. As the AI cross-referenced the monument's alignments with its 12,000-year-old star map, a final, horrifying pattern began to emerge. It wasn't a prophecy in the mystical sense. It was a calculation, a celestial timetable. You see, the builders of Stonehenge understood that our solar system is not an empty, peaceful space. It moves through the galaxy, periodically passing through denser regions of the Milky Way's spiral arms. These regions are filled with comets, asteroids, and interstellar dust. The message in the stones described this as a great cosmic river, and every 26,000 years, our solar system has to ford it. This is a real astronomical phenomenon known as the precession of the equinoxes, a cycle that ancient cultures from the Mayans to the Vedic Indians were obsessed with. Many people are crazy about linking this cycle to spiritual awakenings, but the builders of Stonehenge saw it in a much more practical and terrifying light. During this passage, the gravitational balance of our solar system is disturbed. The Oort cloud, a vast shell of icy bodies at the edge of our system, gets jostled. This sends a shower of comets hurtling toward the inner solar system. Most of them miss, but the odds are that over a period of a few hundred years, some won't. The Younger Dryas impact, the one that wiped out their world, was not a random one-in-a-million event. It was a predictable consequence of this cycle. Their entire civilization was built on this knowledge, and their greatest minds were dedicated to tracking it. The thing nobody tells you is that Stonehenge is more than just an observatory. It's a threat detection system. The AI found that the monument's outer ring of sarsen stones, with their carefully shaped lintels, acts as a giant sighting device, but it's not aimed at the sun. When the AI modeled the ancient sky, it found the stones were aligned to a specific, empty point in space, the radiant point from which this comet swarm is predicted to arrive. The builders had created an early warning system. When the first objects in the returning swarm became visible from that precise location, the clock would have struck midnight. And according to the AI's final calculation, the clock was about to strike midnight again. The message specified a series of celestial triggers. The first trigger was a specific alignment of Earth, the Sun, and the center of the galaxy, which happens during the precession cycle. That alignment is happening right now. The second trigger was a measurable increase in interstellar dust entering our solar system, something our own space agencies have been recording for the past decade. The third and final trigger was the arrival of a harbinger, a large non-terrestrial object on a highly unusual orbit, acting as the vanguard for the swarm that would follow. The Kronos team frantically began searching astronomical databases for an object matching the description. They found one, an object discovered a few years ago, initially classified as an asteroid. But it behaved strangely. It had a highly elliptical, long-period orbit that traced back to the Oort cloud. It was unusually dark, absorbing almost all light that hit it, making it incredibly difficult to see. And it was big, very big. According to the data in the stones, this was not just a rock. It was the leader of the pack. Where it went, the others would follow. The AI projected the object's trajectory and cross-referenced it with the timeline encoded in Stonehenge's acoustic and magnetic layers. The result it produced was not a vague prediction of some far-off future. It was a specific date, a date so unnervingly close that the researchers at first thought it had to be a glitch in the system. They ran the calculations again and again. The result was always the same. The window for the next catastrophic event wasn't centuries away. It began in the next few years. To put it mildly, the terrifying message of Stonehenge was not just a warning, it was a deadline. The ancient builders had given us a head start of 5,000 years. They passed on the torch of knowledge, hoping that the next civilization would be advanced enough not just to read the message, but to act on it. They had given us the science, the physics of the threat, the astronomical markers to watch for. They were telling us, across the millennia, we were wiped out because we were caught by surprise. You don't have to be. The final decoded transmissions from the AI were the most chilling of all. They weren't calculations or astronomical data. They seemed to be personal logs or records from the final days of their civilization. They described frantic efforts to build underground shelters, to launch seed banks into space, and to preserve their knowledge. They described the sky burning and the oceans boiling. It was the last will and testament of a dying world. And in their final entry, they left one last piece of advice, a plea to the future. Look to the sky. Do not make our mistake. Unify. Survive. Now we are the ones who have to decide what to do. We have the warning. We have the science. The stones have done their job. The question is, will we do ours? Are we living in the final days of our own civilization? A warning or a hoax? So, here we are, faced with a 5,000-year-old message decoded by an artificial intelligence that warns of an impending, world-altering event. It's a story that sounds like it was ripped from the pages of a science fiction novel. And this is where we have to talk directly to you, the person watching this, because many people are going to hear this and immediately dismiss it. They'll call it a conspiracy theory, a hoax, or a misinterpretation of the data. And you know what? They might be right. The thing is, the mainstream explanation for Stonehenge is still that it's a Neolithic temple and solar calendar. The evidence for that is solid. We know it was used for rituals. We found human and animal remains that suggest it was a place of ceremony, of life and passing. What many have overlooked, however, is that it can be two things at once. A place of worship can also be a place of science. A temple can also be an observatory. A calendar to track the seasons can also be a clock to track the ages. Are we missing a key detail? Is it possible that the AI at Project Kronos, in its search for patterns, simply created one where none exists? This is a real danger with artificial intelligence. An AI is only as good as its programming and the data it's fed. It can find false positives, connecting unrelated dots to create a picture that fits a narrative it has learned. Maybe the magnetic anomalies are just natural variations in the rock. Maybe the acoustic resonances are a coincidence of the monument's geometry. Maybe the astronomical alignments are just cherry-picked from thousands of possibilities. That's the safe explanation. It's the comfortable one. It allows us to put this terrifying message back in its box and go on with our lives. But then there are the lingering questions, the wow factors that just don't add up. How did a supposedly primitive people transport 4-ton bluestones over 150 miles of rough terrain? Why are there precise astronomical alignments in a structure this ancient that go far beyond the simple needs of a farming calendar? Why do so many ancient cultures, separated by oceans and continents, share the same stories of a global flood and a golden age destroyed by fire from the sky? The thing is, the Project Chronos data, even if you remove the terrifying conclusion, presents a profound challenge to our understanding of the past. It suggests our ancestors were far more sophisticated than we give them credit for. They were mathematicians, engineers, and astronomers of the highest order. Whether they were survivors of a lost civilization or simply geniuses of their own time, they left a legacy that we are only now beginning to appreciate. Their message might not be a literal prophecy. It could be a parable, a cautionary tale written in the universal language of math and astronomy, warning that civilizations are fragile and that the cosmos is not always a friendly place. The ultimate question is not whether the warning of Stonehenge is real. The question is, does it matter? Whether the threat comes from a comet swarm, climate change, or our own actions, the message of the stones remains the same. Unify, survive. It's a call to action. It's a plea for us to look beyond our petty squabbles and recognize that we are all inhabitants of a very small, very fragile planet, hurtling through a very big and unpredictable universe. Did all this happen overnight? Of course not. The work of Project Chronos is speculative, built on layers of interpretation, but it's based on real data. And it gives us a choice. We can ignore the echo in the room and dismiss it as noise. Or we can listen. We can accept the possibility that we don't know everything about our own history. We can embrace the idea that our ancestors left us not just a mystery, but a responsibility. A responsibility to be better custodians of our world and wiser guardians of our future. The truth is out there, perhaps still waiting for us to ask the right questions. The stones of Stonehenge have spoken. What do you think? Is this a genuine warning from the deep past or just a fascinating theory? Let us know in the comments below. Was our ancient past deliberately hidden from us? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more dives into the unknown, and hit the bell to stay notified.